The silence after battle was always the hardest part. Admiral Park Hyun-woo stood on the observation deck of the UES Incheon and looked out at the debris field that had once been the most powerful Vorthak fleet in their empire. Twisted metal drifted past the windows, pieces of ships that had carried thousands of soldiers just hours ago. Some of that debris came from human ships too. Final casualty report, sir, Commander Kim said quietly as he approached. His uniform was stained with smoke and his face showed the exhaustion that came after 12 hours of continuous battle. Park took the data pad and read the numbers that would haunt his dreams. 7 human ships destroyed completely. The destroyers UES Ulsan and UES Pohang, the cruiser UES Cheongju, the battleship UES Jeonju, and 3 escort vessels. 12,047 human personnel killed in action. Another 8,000 wounded. Captain Choi? Park asked. Killed when the Pohang rammed that Vorthak dreadnought. He saved the UES Busan and probably half the 3rd Squadron. Kim paused. He died a hero, sir, Park nodded. Captain Choi Min-ho had been one of his best officers. A careful man who thought through every decision twice. In the end, he had given his life to protect others without hesitation. That was what humans did when it mattered. And the Altarians were still getting reports from the surface. Dr. Ahn estimates about 400,000 civilian casualties from the bombing. But we saved nearly 2 million people from the prison camps. 2 million lives. Park tried to hold on to that number when the weight of his losses threatened to crush him. 12,000 humans had died, but 2 million aliens would live because of their sacrifice. Sir, came a voice from behind them. Park turned to see Chief Engineer Bae Jun-seo approaching. The man looked like he hadn't slept in days, which was probably true. Damage report on the fleet. How bad? Could be worse. The Incheon lost her forward shield array and 2 main gun turrets. The Seoul has engine damage that'll take a week to fix properly. Most of the other ships have minor hull breaches and system failures. Bae wiped grease from his hands with a dirty rag. We can fight again if we have to, but we need a real shipyard for major repairs. We'll make do with what we have, Park said. How long before we can establish a proper relief operation? Already working on it, sir. The Altarians are incredibly organized for people who just survived an invasion. They've got refugee centers set up and supply distribution networks running. All they needed was someone to chase away the bullies. Down on New Haven's surface, the real work was just beginning. Dr. Ahn Subin had set up field hospitals in 12 locations across the planet. Human medics worked alongside Altarian doctors to treat the wounded from both species. Doctor, said her assistant, Lieutenant Park Min-young, we've got 30 more Vorthak prisoners coming in. Most of them have injuries from the space battle. Treat them the same as everyone else, Dr. Ahn said without looking up from the Altarian child she was examining. Broken bones don't care what species you are. It was a philosophy that defined the human approach to the aftermath. They could have left the Vorthak prisoners to die. They could have taken revenge for the destruction of Altarian cities. Instead, they followed their own laws about treating prisoners of war, even when those prisoners came from a species that showed no such mercy. Commander Yoon Da-eun found herself serving as an unofficial ambassador between 3 different species. The Altarians wanted to understand why humans had risked everything for strangers. The Vorthak prisoners couldn't comprehend being treated with dignity after losing a battle. Your species confuses me, said Admiral Korthax during one of their interviews. The former Vorthak commander sat in a detention cell aboard the UES Incheon, but it was a clean cell with proper food and medical care. How so? Yoon asked. You fight like demons when you have to, but you treat defeated enemies like guests. You traveled across the galaxy to save people you'd never met. Your admiral risks his career to do what he thinks is right instead of following orders. Korthak shook his head. In the Vorthak Empire, such behavior would be seen as weakness. Maybe that's why your empire will never understand the galaxy as well as you think you, do. Explain. Yoon thought for a moment about how to put it in terms the Vorthak could understand. Your people believe that strength comes from taking what you want. Humans believe that real strength comes from protecting what you love. You see the difference? Korthax was quiet for a long time. What will happen to me now? You'll be tried for war crimes. The Altarians have a right to justice for what you did to their people. But you'll get a fair trial with legal representation. And then, that depends on what the court decides. But you'll live. Your crew will live. That's more mercy than you showed the people of New Haven. Meanwhile, the news of the battle was spreading across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The first reports came from Vorthak ships that had escaped the battle, then from merchant vessels that had detected the massive energy signatures of the space battle. Within days, every government in known space was talking about the impossible human victory. On the Altarian homeworld, the Council of Elders held an emergency session to discuss what had happened at New Haven. 12 ships, Elder Morkana said in amazement. 12 human ships destroyed an entire Vorthak armada. 60 ships, Elder Velcorum corrected. But still, the Vorthak had over 200 vessels. This should have been impossible. Perhaps we've been thinking about military strength in the wrong way, suggested Elder Thexmira. The humans didn't win because they had bigger guns. They won because they trained harder, fought smarter, and cared more about the outcome. The discussion that followed would reshape Altarian foreign policy for generations. For the first time in their peaceful history, they began to consider that sometimes violence was necessary to protect innocence. Back on New Haven, Administrator Veltar stood in the ruins of his capital city and watched human engineers work alongside Altarian construction crews to rebuild what the Vorthak had destroyed. The cooperation was remarkable. Human efficiency combined with Altarian precision to create something better than either species could have managed alone. Administrator, said Morden as he approached with a communication pad, we're receiving hundreds of messages from other worlds, species we've never heard of, asking if the humans really did what the reports say they did. Veltar wasn't surprised. The galaxy was full of peaceful civilizations that lived in fear of aggressive neighbors. The Vorthak Empire was just one of many threats that smaller species faced every day. What should we tell them? The truth. That when we called for help, the humans came. That they fought harder than anyone thought possible. And that they did it for no reason except that it was the right thing to do. Sir, some of these messages are asking if the humans would help them too. Veltar looked out at the human ship still orbiting his world. Admiral Park had made it clear that the 7th Fleet would remain until New Haven was back on its feet. They weren't occupiers or conquerors. They were protectors who had appointed themselves to watch over people who couldn't protect themselves. I think, Veltar said slowly, that the galaxy is about to become a very different place. He was right. In government buildings across known space, leaders were having the same conversation. For centuries, the strong had preyed on the weak because no one was willing to stop them. The Vorthak, the Hegemony, the Ravager clans, all of them had built their power on the assumption that peaceful species would always be victims. Humanity had just proven that assumption wrong. Admiral Park received his orders from Earth Command 3 days after the battle. Officially, he was being recalled for unauthorized military action. Unofficially, the message from Fleet Admiral Kim Song-ho was much different. Hyunwoo, the entire Admiralty, is arguing about whether to court-martial you or give you a medal. The politicians are screaming about unauthorized wars, but the intelligence services are saying this is the best thing that's happened to human foreign policy in decades. Every peaceful species in the galaxy is suddenly very interested in talking to Earth. Park smiled as he read the message. Politics was something he'd never been good at. Fighting for people who needed help was something he understood completely. Sir, Commander Kim said as he entered the Admiral's quarters, we're receiving another distress call. A species called the Calamari. About 4 days from here, they're being attacked by something called the Iron Fang Pirates. Park looked out the window at New Haven, where human and Altarian workers continued rebuilding together. The planet would be fine. They had proven they could defend themselves, and they had allies now who would answer if they called for help again. Prep the fleet for departure, he said. Looks like we've got more work to do. The blue sky of New Haven was burning. Veltar pressed his 6-fingered hands against the observation deck window and watched the orbital defense platforms die one by one. Each explosion sent bright flashes across the planet's atmosphere. The Vorthak warships hung in space like black daggers against the stars. They had come without warning, without demands, without mercy. How many ships? Veltar asked his assistant Morden. 237, Administrator. Maybe more hiding behind the moon. Morden's voice shook. His blue skin had turned pale with fear. They destroyed our entire defense fleet in 20 minutes. Veltar closed his eyes. New Haven was a peaceful mining colony. They had no military beyond a few patrol ships and the orbital platforms. The platforms were now burning metal in space. 2.3 million Altarians lived on this world. Farmers, miners, teachers, children, none of them had ever heard anyone. Keep broadcasting the distress signal, Veltar said. Someone has to hear us. Sir, we've been sending it for 127 days. No one has answered. Veltar knew this. Every government in the galaxy had received their calls for help. The Centaurian Republic said it was not their sector. The Vegan Confederacy claimed they were monitoring the situation. The Galactic Council had sent a formal letter expressing deep concern and nothing else. Outside, the first Vorthak bombardment began. The capital city of Haven's Rest had 3 million people. Veltar watched green energy beams slice through the defensive shields like they were made of paper. Buildings older than his grandfather turned to dust and fire. The communications center, the hospital, the schools where Altarian children learned about the peaceful galaxy they lived in. Administrator, Morden shouted over the alarms. Incoming transmission from the human monitoring station. Veltar spun around. Humans? He had heard of them but never met one. They were a young species from somewhere far away. What could they want? The hologram showed a human female in a dark blue uniform. Her skin was pale pink and her hair was black. Strange flat features, but her eyes looked kind. New Haven Colony, this is Commander Lee So-Jin of Earth Intelligence Corps Station 47. We received your distress signal. I'm forwarding it to our military command right now. Commander Lee, Veltar said, trying to keep hope out of his voice. We appreciate any help, but we don't have much time. The Vorthak fleet is already bombing our cities. The human woman's face grew hard. Vorthak? Those bastards. She said a word that the translator couldn't handle. Sir, I'm breaking protocol here, but I'm sending your message directly to Admiral Park Hyunwoo of the 7th Fleet. If anyone can help you, it's him. How far away is this fleet? Veltar asked. 3 days at maximum speed. Maybe less if they push their engines. 3 days. Veltar looked out the window again. Haven's Rest was already half destroyed. Commander, I don't think we have 3 days. Then hold on for as long as you can, the human said. Earth doesn't abandon people who call for help. The transmission ended. Veltar stared at the empty hologram. Earth doesn't abandon people who call for help. What a strange thing to say. Every other government had abandoned them without a second thought. Sir, Morden said quietly, the Vorthak are landing troops in Sector 7. Veltar nodded. He had seen Vorthak invasions before on the news feeds. They didn't kill everyone at once. First came the bombardment to break resistance, then ground troops to round up survivors. The strong ones became slaves in their factories. The weak ones were left to die. He opened a channel to all emergency frequencies. This is Administrator Veltar of New Haven Colony. To all citizens, evacuate to the underground shelters immediately. Take only what you can carry. This is not a drill. Over the next 12 hours, Veltar watched his world die. The Vorthak ships took turns bombing different cities. They weren't trying to destroy everything at once. They wanted to cause terror, to make people run in panic so they could be captured more easily. The mining town of Blue Creek was hit at dawn. The fishing village of Coral Bay burned at noon. By evening, refugee streams clogged every road leading to the mountain shelters. Veltar moved his command center to an underground bunker beneath the capital. The concrete walls shook with each explosion above. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. His staff worked at portable computers trying to coordinate evacuations while the world ended above their heads. Sir, we're getting reports from the surface, Morden said. Vorthak dropships are landing in the city center. They're setting up processing camps. Veltar had seen those camps on other worlds. Huge metal cages where prisoners waited to be sorted. The healthy ones shipped off-world as slaves. The others shot and left in mass graves. Any word from the human fleet? Nothing, sir. I don't think they're coming. Veltar couldn't blame them. Why should they? Humans barely knew Altarians existed. They had their own people to protect. It made no sense to risk a war with the Vorthak Empire for strangers on the other side of the galaxy. But still, he kept hoping. By the second day, most of New Haven's major cities were in Vorthak hands. The aliens moved efficiently, setting up their equipment and herding prisoners with cold precision. They had done this many times before on many worlds. Veltar sent one last message on all frequencies. This is New Haven Colony. If anyone receives this transmission, please remember us. We were a peaceful people. We never hurt anyone. We just wanted to live in peace and raise our children under blue skies. The Vorthak came and we couldn't stop them. We called for help, but no one came. Please, if you have the power to stop them from doing this to others, use it. Don't let them win. Don't let them turn the galaxy into a place where only the strong survive." He paused, looking around at his staff. Good people. Brave people. They had stayed at their posts even when the world burned above them. Thank you for listening. This is Administrator Veltar signing off. The transmission ended. In the silence that followed, they could hear Vorthak soldiers moving through the building above. Heavy boots on metal floors. Harsh voices speaking in their guttural language. Veltar sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. At least he had tried. At least someone somewhere would know what happened to New Haven. Outside the bunker, the blue sky had turned black with smoke. The Vorthak Empire had claimed another world. Another peaceful people had learned that the galaxy belonged to those willing to take it by force. But far away, in the deep darkness between stars, something was coming. Something fast and angry and absolutely determined to prove the galaxy wrong about who really owned it. Admiral Korthek stared at the tactical display aboard his flagship, the Vorthak Dreadnought Dark Conquest. The human ships hung in space at the edge of the system like tiny needles against the stars. 60 ships total. His fleet had 237 warships, including some of the most powerful vessels in the Vorthak Empire. "What do we know about these humans?" he asked his intelligence officer. "Very little, Admiral. They're a young species from the Outer Rim. No significant military reputation. Our databases show they've been involved in a few minor conflicts, but nothing on this scale." Korthex nodded. Young species often thought they were stronger than they really were. The galaxy had a way of teaching them better. Show them what happens when someone challenges the Vorthak Empire. On the planet below, Veltar huddled in his underground bunker with the last few members of his staff. The concrete walls shook constantly from explosions above. Vorthak soldiers were still hunting for survivors in the ruins of the capital city. "Administrator," Morden whispered, "the humans are really here. I can see their ships on our sensors." Veltar looked at the display. 60 human ships against over 200 Vorthak warships. It was brave, but it was also hopeless. These humans had traveled across the galaxy to die for strangers. Part of him wished they hadn't come. At least then their deaths wouldn't be on his conscience. "Sir?" came another voice from the communication station. "The human admiral is broadcasting on all frequencies." The voice that filled the bunker was calm and confident. "Vorthak Fleet, this is Admiral Park Hyunwoo. You have exactly 5 minutes to begin withdrawing from this system. After that, we'll make you leave." The threat was so ridiculous that Morden almost laughed. 5 minutes? The human fleet could be destroyed in 5 minutes. Admiral Korthex thought the same thing. He opened a response channel. "Human Admiral, you have courage but no wisdom. We have conquered 47 star systems. We have destroyed fleets 10 times larger than yours. Surrender now and we'll give you a quick death." "Counteroffer," came the reply. "You leave now and we won't have to embarrass you in front of your crews." Korthex had heard enough. "All ships, attack formation. Destroy the human fleet." The Vorthak Armada began moving toward the human ships. Massive battle cruisers led the charge, followed by squadrons of heavy cruisers and destroyers. It should have been like watching lions attack a flock of sheep. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships moved, not just forward or backward, but in ways that made Korthex's tactical officer blink and check his sensors twice. The human vessels slid sideways through space, spinning and diving and climbing in patterns that seemed to ignore basic physics. Their formations flowed like water, each ship covering the others while maintaining perfect spacing. "How are they doing that?" the tactical officer asked. "I don't know," Korthex admitted, "but it doesn't matter. Numbers always win." The first exchange of fire proved him wrong. The human ships opened up with weapons that blazed like captured stars, brilliant white beams that cut through Vorthak shields like they weren't there. The leading Vorthak battlecruiser, the Bone Crusher, lost its forward shield array in the first 10 seconds of combat. But it was the human tactics that really shocked the Vorthak. Instead of forming a battle line like civilized species, the humans split into small groups that attacked from multiple directions at once. Their smaller ships swarmed around Vorthak vessels like angry insects, firing precise shots at weapon systems and engines. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out, 3 human destroyers just took out the cruiser Iron Fist. They're targeting our engines specifically." Korthex watched in growing alarm as his fleet tried to respond to the human attack. The problem was that the humans were everywhere at once. Every time a Vorthak ship turned to face one group of attackers, Another group hit them from behind. On the human flagship, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. The Vorthak were good fighters, but they were used to enemies who fought by the rules. Humans had never been very good at following rules when people's lives were at stake. "Commander Kim," he said to his tactical officer, "execute attack pattern 7. I want those heavy cruisers out of the fight." "Yes, sir. All squadrons attack pattern 7. The human fleet shifted again, moving in a complex dance that brought their heaviest ships to bear on the Vorthak cruiser squadron. The UES Incheon led the charge, its main cannon powering up with a sound like thunder. The weapon that emerged from the Incheon's bow was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, a beam of pure energy that channeled the power of a small star. It struck the Vorthak heavy cruiser Skullbreaker dead center and went completely through it. The cruiser exploded in a ball of superheated plasma that lit up half the system. "Impossible," Cortex whispered. What kind of weapon was that? His question was answered when 5 more human battleships fired their main guns at once. The beams converged on another Vorthak cruiser, the Death's Hand, and turned it into glowing gas in less than 3 seconds. But the humans weren't just winning with superior firepower. Their pilots were doing things that seemed impossible. Commander Park Ji-won led her fighter squadron in an attack on a Vorthak destroyer, her pilots weaving between enemy fire like they could see the future. "How are they so fast?" A Vorthak pilot screamed over the radio before his ship exploded. The answer was simple, though the Vorthak didn't know it. Human reflexes, enhanced by cybernetic interfaces, allowed them to react 3 times faster than most alien species. To human pilots, Vorthak ships seemed to move in slow motion. Within 30 minutes, the Vorthak had lost over 40 ships. Admiral Cortex realized he was facing something he had never encountered before. An enemy that was not only willing to fight but actually better at it than his forces were. "All ships fall back to defensive formation," he ordered, but the humans didn't let them reorganize. The moment the Vorthak tried to retreat, human ships pressed the attack. Captain Nam Gi-young's battleship squadron used coordinated drone swarms to overwhelm Vorthak point defenses, then moved in for close-range kills. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender requests from 7 of our ships." "Denied," Cortex snarled. "No Vorthak ship surrenders to aliens. Sir, the Dark Talon just lost its entire weapon array. They're requesting permission to withdraw." "I said denied." But even as Cortex gave the order, he knew the battle was lost. His fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that shouldn't have been able to challenge them. These humans fought like they had been born for war, but with a precision and coordination that spoke of extensive training and superior technology. On New Haven's surface, Veltar and his staff watched the impossible battle unfold on their sensors. Vorthak ships were exploding one after another, while the human fleet seemed to take minimal damage. "Administrator," Morden said in amazement. "The humans are winning." "They're actually winning." Veltar could hardly believe it himself. The Vorthak Empire had conquered dozens of worlds. Their fleets had destroyed entire civilizations, and now 60 human ships were tearing them apart like paper. "Sir," the communications officer said, "I'm receiving a transmission from the human flagship. Put it through." The voice was calm and professional, like the speaker was discussing the weather instead of commanding the largest space battle in recent galactic history. "Administrator Veltar, this is Admiral Park. We've got the situation under control up here. How are things on the surface?" "Admiral, there are still thousands of Vorthak soldiers on the planet. They have most of our people in prison camps. Not for long. We're sending down Marines as soon as we finish cleaning up this fleet. Tell your people to stay in the shelters for a few more hours." "Admiral," Veltar said, his voice breaking with emotion. Why did you come? We're strangers to you." The pause lasted several seconds. When Admiral Park spoke again, his voice was gentle but firm. "Administrator, let me tell you something about humans. We believe that peaceful people deserve to live in peace. We believe that when someone calls for help, you answer. And we believe that bullies need to learn that the galaxy doesn't belong to them." Another Vorthak cruiser exploded in the distance, its death lighting up the planet's night sky. "We came because it was right, and because someone had to show the galaxy that the strong don't always win." Admiral Park Hyun-woo stood in the command center of the UES Incheon and read the message for the 3rd time. The holographic display showed him everything Lee So-jin had forwarded from New Haven Colony. desperate voices speaking in a language his computer barely recognized. Images of burning cities and alien warships hanging in space like black clouds. "What do we know about these Altarians?" he asked his tactical officer. Commander Kim Tae-yang pulled up files on his console. "Peaceful mining colony, sir. Population 2.3 million. They've never been involved in any conflicts. Their government is basically a bunch of farmers and engineers who got together to run a planet." "And the Vorthak?" "Different story entirely." Kim's face grew dark. "Militaristic empire. They've conquered 47 star systems in the last century. They don't negotiate, they don't take prisoners for long, and they don't leave survivors who might cause trouble later." Park nodded. He had heard of the Vorthak before, the kind of species that made the galaxy a darker place just by existing. "Sir," said Captain Choi Min-ho from the destroyer squadron, "with respect, this isn't our fight. We're 3 days from home at maximum speed. No one asked Earth to be the galaxy's police force." Park understood the captain's concerns. The 7th Fleet was humanity's most powerful naval force, but they were also very far from any support. 12 capital ships, 47 escort vessels, and 180,000 of Earth's finest sailors and marines. If something went wrong, no one could help them. "Commander Yoon Da-yoon," Park said to the woman standing near the diplomatic station. "Your opinion?" Yoon had been studying alien cultures for most of her career. She knew more about non-human psychology than almost anyone in the fleet. "Sir, the Altarians represent everything we claim to value. Peaceful cooperation, scientific advancement, taking care of their people. If we let them die when we could save them, what does that say about us?" "It says we're smart enough not to pick fights we don't have to win," Captain Choi replied. "No," Park said quietly. "It says we're the kind of people who only help others when it's convenient." He walked to the main display and looked at the tactical information. The Vorthak fleet was massive, over 200 ships including several of their heavy battle cruisers. On paper, it should be an easy victory for them. The 7th Fleet was outnumbered 4-1, but Park had been studying Vorthak tactics for years. They were used to fighting species that surrendered quickly or fought with old-fashioned weapons. They had never faced anyone who hit back as hard as humans could. "Chief Engineer Bae Jun-seo," he said into his communicator. "How fast can we get to the New Haven system?" "At maximum acceleration?" 72 hours, sir. "But I wouldn't recommend it. We'll be pushing every engine past safety limits. Half the crew will be sick from the acceleration and we'll arrive with partially depleted fuel reserves. And if we don't push the engines? 4 days, 18 hours. Much safer for the ships and crew." Park did the math in his head. In 4 days, the Altarians would be dead or enslaved. In 3 days, they might still have a chance. "All ships prepare for maximum acceleration," he announced on the fleet-wide channel. "Set course for New Haven Colony." "We're going to war, sir," Commander Kim said carefully. "Do we have authorization from Earth Command for military action?" Park looked around the command center. These people had followed him through 3 separate conflicts. They trusted his judgment. Sometimes being human means doing what's right regardless of orders. The next 3 days tested everyone aboard the 7th Fleet. The acceleration pushed every human body to its limits. In the medical bay, Dr. An Soo-bin worked around the clock, treating crew members who couldn't handle the stress. The corridors of every ship filled with the sound of people being sick, but they kept going. Chief Engineer Bae performed miracles keeping the engines running. He barely slept, moving from ship to ship in maintenance shuttles to fix problems before they became disasters. When the engine on the destroyer UES Busan started overheating, he personally crawled inside the reactor housing to make repairs while it was still running. "Sir," he reported to Park on the second day, "we're holding together, but just barely. If we have to fight when we arrive, I can't guarantee all our systems will work properly." "Do your best," Park told him. "That's all anyone can ask." On the 3rd day, they finally dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Haven system. What they saw made everyone angry. The Vorthak fleet hung around the planet like vultures around a corpse. Huge black ships with weapon ports glowing red. On the planet's surface, fires burned in dozens of cities. The orbital defense platforms were gone, blown to pieces and floating in space as scrap metal. "Sensors detect massive Vorthak ground forces," Commander Kim reported. "They've set up processing camps in at least 12 locations." "Sir, if those are what I think they are," Park said grimly. He had seen intelligence reports about Vorthak prisoner camps, places where civilized beings were sorted like cargo, the strong ones shipped off to slave factories. the weak ones killed and buried in mass graves. "Admiral," came a voice from the communications station. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Audio only, very weak signal. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was tired and scared, but still determined. "This is Administrator Veltar of New Haven Colony. If anyone can hear this, the Vorthak have taken our world. Most of our people are dead or captured. We held out as long as we could. We're sorry we couldn't do better." Park opened a channel. "Administrator Veltar, this is Admiral Park Hyunwoo of the United Earth Space Navy. We received your distress call. Sorry we're late. Traffic was murder getting here." The silence that followed lasted for nearly 30 seconds. When Veltar spoke again, his voice was full of hope and disbelief. "Admiral Park, you came?" "You actually came? We said we would. Earth doesn't abandon people who call for help. But there are so many Vorthak ships, over 200. You'll be destroyed." Park looked around his command center. Every officer was watching him. These people had followed him across the galaxy to fight for strangers they had never met. "They deserve to know why, Administrator," he said. "We didn't come this far to turn around and go home. Hold tight, we're going to make some noise." He switched to the fleet channel. "All ships, battle stations, this is what we came here to do." The Vorthak had noticed them by now. Their massive fleet was turning to face the human ships. Admiral Korthex, the Vorthak commander, sent a message on all frequencies. "Unknown ships, you are in Vorthak space. Identify yourselves and state your business here." Commander Lee So-jin, now serving as communications officer, smiled as she opened a response channel.
"Vorthak Fleet, this is the United Earth Space Navy. Our business is protecting people who can't protect themselves."
"We formally demand that you withdraw from this system immediately." The response came quickly, harsh laughter and threats. The Vorthak had never heard of humans, but they weren't impressed. Another young species thinking they could challenge the Empire. Admiral Korthex sent his own message. "Humans, you have 30 minutes to leave this system or we will add your ships to our trophy collection. This world belongs to the Vorthak Empire now." Park stood up from his command chair. Around him, his officers waited for orders. Outside, the largest space battle in human history was about to begin. "Korthex," he said calmly, "let me explain something to you. We traveled 3 days at maximum speed to get here. We pushed our engines past safety limits. Half my crew is still recovering from acceleration sickness. We did all of this for people we had never met, on a world we had never seen, for no reason except that it was the right thing to do." He paused, looking at the tactical display showing the massive Vorthak fleet. "Do you really think we came this far just to leave when you told us to?" The space around New Haven had become a graveyard of burning metal and exploding ships. Admiral Korthex watched from his command deck as another squadron of his cruisers died under human fire. In 40 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. "Admiral, we've lost 60% of our fleet," his tactical officer reported. The young Vorthak's voice shook with fear. "Their weapons are cutting through our shields like they don't exist. Then we adapt," Korthex growled. "Order all remaining ships to focus fire on their flagship. Kill their admiral and the rest will fall apart." It was the kind of tactic that had worked against other species. Cut off the head and the body dies. But these were humans, and humans didn't fight like anyone else. The moment 50 Vorthak ships turned their weapons toward the UES Incheon, the entire human fleet responded. Every ship moved to protect their flagship, creating a wall of steel and fire that the Vorthak couldn't penetrate. "Impossible," Korthex whispered. "How do they coordinate so perfectly?" The answer was something the Vorthak couldn't understand. Human naval doctrine was based on trust, training, and the belief that every person in the fleet was worth protecting. When Admiral Park's ship was threatened, every captain in the 7th Fleet moved to defend it without being ordered. "Sir," Commander Kim said from the Incheon's tactical station, "the enemy fleet is concentrating on our position." "Let them come," Admiral Park replied calmly. "All ships formation Charlie 7. Time to show them what happens when you threaten Earth's Navy." The human fleet moved like a living thing, ships sliding into new positions with perfect precision. The UES Incheon took point, its massive hull bristling with weapons. Behind it, battleships and cruisers formed a cone of destruction that aimed directly at the heart of the Vorthak formation. "Fire," Admiral Park said quietly. What happened next made the previous battle look like a minor skirmish. The combined firepower of the human fleet lit up space like a newborn star. Beam weapons, missile salvos, and plasma cannons all fired at once. creating a wall of destruction that swept through the Vorthak ships. The first Vorthak battlecruiser to take the full force of the human attack simply vanished. One moment it was there, a kilometer-long ship of war that had conquered a dozen worlds. The next moment it was expanding gas and debris. By the void, Korthex breathed. What are these creatures? His question was answered when Captain Nam Gi-young's battleship squadron demonstrated another human innovation. Instead of fighting alone, they had trained their ships to work together like fingers on a hand. The UES Seoul, UES Daegu, and UES Gwangju moved in perfect formation, their weapons firing in sequence to overwhelm enemy defenses. The Vorthak heavy cruiser Blood Drinker found itself facing all three ships at once. Its shields held for exactly 4 seconds before collapsing. The ship's hull followed a moment later. "Admiral," the Vorthak sensor operator called out in panic. "Their small ships are everywhere. They're hitting our engines, our weapons, our life support. How are they so accurate?" The answer was simple but devastating. Human technology had advanced beyond what most of the galaxy thought possible. Their targeting computers could track dozens of targets simultaneously. Their weapons could hit a specific component on an enemy ship from thousands of kilometers away. But more than that, human crews trained constantly for exactly this kind of battle. Every gunner knew how to disable an enemy ship without destroying it. Every pilot could thread their fighter through enemy fire that would have killed any other species. Lieutenant Commander Park, Ji-won proved this point as she led her fighter squadron against a group of Vorthak destroyers. Her pilots moved like dancers, spinning and diving through space in patterns that seemed impossible. "Blue leader to all fighters," she said over the radio. "Target their weapon systems. Leave the engines alone. We want prisoners for questioning." Her fighters attacked with surgical precision. Laser bursts that took out gun turrets without damaging the hull. Missile strikes that disabled shield generators while leaving life support intact. In minutes, 3 Vorthak destroyers were floating helplessly in space. Their crews alive but unable to fight. "Surrender your ships and we'll treat you according to Galactic law," Ji-won broadcast to the disabled vessels. The response was immediate. "This is Captain Vexmore of the destroyer Flesh Render. We surrender. Please don't kill us." It was the first time in Vorthak history that one of their ships had surrendered to an alien force. Admiral Korthex felt his empire crumbling around him. Not just his fleet, but everything the Vorthak represented. They were supposed to be the strongest, the most feared. The conquerors who took what they wanted and destroyed anyone who opposed them. These humans were proving that strength meant nothing without skill. That fear only worked against people who had something to lose. And that sometimes the conquerors met something they couldn't conquer. "All ships," he broadcast on the fleet channel. "Ramming speed. If we can't defeat them with weapons, we'll take them with us." It was a desperate move, but desperation was all he had left. 23 Vorthak ships turned toward the human fleet and accelerated to maximum speed. Their captains shut down life support and diverted all power to engines. If they were going to die, they would take some humans with them. The human response was swift and brutal. "Ramming attack detected," Commander Kim announced on the Incheon's bridge. "All ships are tracking and preparing to intercept." "Denied," Admiral Park said. "Let them come. But prepare the gravitic mines." The gravitic mines were another human innovation that the galaxy had never seen. Devices that could create artificial gravity wells in space, powerful enough to tear apart incoming ships. The 7th Fleet deployed them like a minefield between themselves and the charging Vorthak vessels. The first Vorthak ship to hit a gravitic mine simply came apart. The artificial gravity well stretched its hull until the metal snapped like a rubber band. The ship broke into 3 pieces, each spinning away into space. The others suffered similar fates. 23 ships began the ramming attack. 0 reached their targets. "Impossible," Korthex said for the 10th time that day. But it wasn't impossible. It was just human. On the planet below, the ground battle was going equally badly for the Vorthak. Human Marines had landed at 12 locations simultaneously. Their dropships protected by fighter cover that swept away any Vorthak aircraft that tried to interfere. Sergeant Major Oh Seung-ho led the assault on the largest prison camp. His Marines moved through the Vorthak defenses like ghosts, using stealth technology that made them nearly invisible. They struck fast and hard, taking out guard towers and communication centers before the enemy knew they were under attack. "All prisoners secure," he reported to the fleet. "We count approximately 50,000 Altarian civilians. They're scared but alive. Similar reports came in from other landing sites. The Vorthak ground forces, cut off from orbital support and facing an enemy they couldn't see coming, surrendered or fled. Within 6 hours, every prison camp on the planet was in human hands. Admiral Korthek stared at his tactical display. Of his original fleet of 237 ships, only 18 remained operational. The rest were destroyed, disabled, or had surrendered. His ground forces were scattered or captured. His reputation was in ruins. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "the humans are broadcasting a message." The voice that came through the speakers was calm and professional. Admiral Park sounded like he was discussing a routine training exercise instead of the most decisive naval victory in recent galactic history. "Admiral Korthex, this is Admiral Park Hyunwoo. Your fleet is defeated and your ground forces have surrendered. I'm offering you the same terms I offered your crews. Surrender your remaining ships and we'll treat you according to galactic law." Korthex wanted to refuse. Every instinct told him to fight to the death rather than surrender to aliens. But he looked around his command deck at the young Vorthak officers who trusted him to bring them home alive. "What guarantees do I have?" he asked. "My word as an officer of the United Earth Space Navy. Your crews will be treated as prisoners of war. They'll be fed, given medical care, and returned to Vorthak space when this conflict is resolved. And me? You'll face trial for war crimes against the Altarian people. But you'll live." Korthex closed his eyes. In one day, these humans had destroyed everything he thought he knew about warfare. They fought harder than anyone he had ever faced, but they still offered mercy to defeated enemies. "I surrender," he said finally. "All Vorthak ships, stand down and prepare to be boarded." The Battle of New Haven was over. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. But for Admiral Park, watching Altarian civilians emerge from the ruins of their cities, the real victory was much simpler. They had kept their promise. They had answered the call for help. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. All eyes turned to Zekthor as he walked to the center platform. His forelegs moved slowly across the smooth floor. The insectoid officer carried a data crystal in his smaller arm. He could feel the weight of what he was about to share. Around him sat representatives from 200 species. Some had scales, others had fur or feathers. A few were made of energy itself. But today they all shared the same concern. They were afraid. Zekthor placed the crystal into the projection device. A hologram appeared above them. It showed a small blue and green planet. "Earth," he said, his voice translator making clicking sounds. "A primitive world in the outer regions. They have not even left their own star system yet. They fight among themselves. They have no unified government. By all our calculations, they should be easy to conquer." He paused and looked around the hall. 7 species have tried. 7 fleets have gone to Earth, none have returned. Whispers filled the hall. Council members shifted in their seats. A large reptilian delegate stood up. "Perhaps they were weak," the reptilian said. "The Korth Empire sent only a small force. Same with the Velix Union. Small fleets mean small losses." Zekthor changed the hologram. Numbers appeared in the air. The first fleet had 50 ships. The second had 120. The third had 300. Each fleet was stronger than the one before. The last fleet, sent by the Dravok Collective, had 800 warships. That fleet could have destroyed most planets in our council. He let that sink in. They all vanished without a trace. The reptilian delegate sat down slowly. A floating sphere of light spoke next. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. "What about distress signals? Surely someone tried to send a warning." "Nothing," Zekthor replied. "No distress calls. No escape pods. No debris fields in space. Complete silence. Every single fleet jumped into the Earth system and never came back. It is as if they never existed." A small furry creature raised one paw. "Could there be a guardian species? Perhaps Earth is protected by someone we do not know about." Zekthor shook his head. "Our long-range scans show no other advanced technology in that region. Earth is alone. Their most powerful weapons are primitive nuclear devices. They barely have basic space stations. According to every model we have, they should not be able to defend against even one of our patrol ships." The hall filled with noise. Everyone talked at once. Some delegates were angry. Others were scared. A few looked curious. The council leader, a tall being made of living crystal, raised one hand. The hall became quiet. "We must understand what happens in that system. We cannot ignore this pattern. If Earth has some weapon or defense we do not understand, we need to know about it. From the back of the hall, a deep voice boomed. The Krahok's Empire will solve this mystery. All heads turned. General Krathvor stepped forward. He was massive, covered in thick armor plates. His species was known for their military strength. They had conquered 12 worlds in the last decade alone. 7 fleets failed because they were not Krahoks. He said with pride, "We will take 1,000 ships. We will bring our best warriors, and we will bring back answers." The council leader looked at Zekthor. "What do you think, intelligence officer?" Zekthor was silent for a moment. His compound eyes looked at the data again. Something did not feel right, but he had no proof. No evidence, only a feeling that they were missing something important. "I think we should be careful, but if the Krahok's Empire wishes to investigate, I cannot stop them." General Krathvor laughed. "Careful is for the weak. The Krahoks do not fear primitive species. We will show this council what happened to those 7 fleets, and then we will claim Earth for the Empire." The council leader nodded slowly. "Very well. The Krahok's Empire has permission to investigate Earth, but you must send regular reports, and you must follow first contact protocols." Krathvor waved one armored hand. Of course. We will follow all the rules." But Zekthor saw the look in the general's eyes. The Krahoks had no plans to follow any protocols. They wanted conquest. They wanted glory. After the meeting ended, Zekthor returned to his quarters. He could not shake the feeling of dread. 7 fleets had disappeared. What made the Krahoks think they would be different? He pulled up his personal console and sent a coded message to a contact in the intelligence network. The message was simple but dangerous. He was requesting permission to place hidden monitoring drones on several Krahok ships. If the council found out, he could lose his position. But he needed to know what happened to those fleets. 2 days later, he received approval. It came from the council leader herself. She was worried too. Zekthor worked through the night. He modified 6 small drones to hide in the Krahok ships. They would record everything and send the data back through quantum channels. Even if the ships were destroyed, the information would survive. 3 weeks passed. The Krahok's fleet gathered at the edge of council space. 1,000 warships, enough firepower to level a continent. General Krathvor stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the stars ahead. Zekthor watched from a distance as his drones attached themselves to 6 different ships. No one noticed. The Krahoks were too confident, too sure of their victory. The fleet activated their jump drives. Space bent around them. In a flash of light, they were gone. Zekthor sat in his quarters and waited. His screens showed the drone feeds. The Krahok's fleet was traveling through jump space. They would reach Earth in 3 hours. He thought about the humans. What were they like? Were they warriors? Did they have some secret weapon? Or was there something else? Something nobody had considered. The timer counted down. 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Then the screens flickered. The Krahok's fleet had arrived in the Earth system. Zekthor leaned forward. His compound eyes focused on every detail. On the bridge of the flagship, General Krathvor stood tall. All ships, battle formation. Charge weapons. Prepare the surrender demand. The communications officer worked at his station. General, we are detecting thousands of transmissions from the planet, but they are not directed at us. Krathvor frowned. What do you mean? The humans are transmitting to each other. Hundreds of different frequencies. Many different languages. They seem to be arguing. The general laughed. They do not even have a unified command. This will be easier than I thought. Send the demand. Tell them to surrender immediately. The message was sent. It broadcast across all human frequencies. A simple demand for total surrender. And in that moment, everything changed. Across Earth, humans stopped arguing with each other. Governments paused their debates. Militaries put aside their differences. For the first time in their history, humans had a common enemy. General Krathvor did not understand the response he received. It was not a surrender. It was not even a formal military communication. It was hundreds of different voices all saying the same thing in their own way. No. The human response confused General Krathvor. He had expected fear or immediate submission. Instead, his communications officer looked more puzzled with each passing minute. General, we are receiving thousands of responses, but none of them are official government communications. We have civilians, military units, corporations, even individual citizens responding to us. Krathvor walked to the communication station and looked at the screen. Messages scrolled past in hundreds of human languages. His computer translated them automatically. One message said, "Come and try it." Another said, "You picked the wrong planet." A third simply showed a middle finger gesture. His database informed him it was an insult. "Where are their leaders?" the general demanded. "Every species has leaders. Someone who speaks for the whole planet." The officer shook his head. "They have nearly 200 different governments. All of them are responding, but they are not agreeing on what to say. Some want to negotiate. Others want to fight. Many are still arguing with each other." Krathvor could not believe what he was hearing. A divided world should be easy to conquer. You simply play one side against the other. But something felt wrong. "Show me their military installations," he ordered. The tactical display lit up with hundreds of red dots across the planet. Military bases, missile silos, naval fleets, air force stations. All of them were powering up weapon systems. "They are preparing to fight," the tactical officer reported. "But General, their coordination is strange. They are not following standard military doctrine. Each nation is responding independently, but they are all targeting us." Then something unexpected happened. On the screen, Krathvor watched as former enemies started sharing information. Nations that had been at war with each other days before were now exchanging military data and tactical plans. "Interesting," Krathvor said. "They unite against an outside threat. Still, they are primitive. We will give them one more chance to surrender, and then we will show them the power of the Krahok's empire." He ordered his communications officer to broadcast another message. This time, it was not a demand. It was a warning. The Krahok's fleet would destroy one satellite as a demonstration of their power. A beam weapon fired from one of the warships. In space, a human communications satellite exploded into a cloud of metal fragments. Krathvor expected panic. He expected the humans to see their helplessness and give up. Instead, the human response got angrier. "General," the communications officer said, his voice uncertain, "that satellite belonged to a private corporation, not a government. The humans are very upset about this. Many of them are calling us thieves and vandals." "Thieves?" Krathvor was confused. "We are a military fleet. We do not steal." They seem to take personal property very seriously. The company that owned the satellite has already filed a lawsuit against us in 17 different human legal systems. For a moment, Krathvor just stared at his officer. A lawsuit? They were being invaded by 1,000 warships and humans were worried about legal paperwork? "Enough of this nonsense," he said. "Move the fleet into low orbit. Prepare to demonstrate our power against a military target. That will show them we are serious." The Krahok's fleet moved closer to Earth. As they did, something strange happened. Humans launched missiles. Hundreds of them. From land bases, from ships, from submarines hidden under the ocean. The missiles were primitive by Krahok's standards, basic chemical rockets with nuclear warheads. The fleet's defense systems activated automatically. Energy shields absorbed the explosions. Point defense lasers destroyed most missiles before they even got close. Not a single Krahok's ship took damage, but Krathvor noticed something odd. The missiles kept coming, and each wave was slightly different. The humans were changing their tactics with every attack. "They are learning," his tactical officer said. The first wave was direct. The second wave used decoys. The third wave split up and attacked from multiple angles. "They are wasting their weapons," Krathvor replied. "Our shields can handle this forever." But deep down, something bothered him. No species had ever adapted this fast. Most civilizations had fixed military strategies. They trained for decades on specific tactics. Humans seemed to be making up new strategies every few minutes. Then the real attack began. It started with computer networks. Krahok's systems started reporting errors. Small ones at first. A sensor would glitch. A communication channel would have static. Navigation data would show tiny errors. "We are under cyber attack," the systems officer reported. "The humans have infiltrated our networks." "Impossible," Krathvor said. "Our encryption is military grade. It would take centuries to break." "They are not breaking it, General. They are tricking it. The attacks are coming from everywhere. Some are sophisticated. Others are crude but effective. They are throwing everything at us to see what works. Krathvor ordered his fleet to isolate their computer systems. No more connection to Earth, only internal ship networks. The cyber attacks stopped. But now the humans tried something else. They began flooding all communication channels with noise. Music, advertisements, television shows, internet memes, random data. The Krahok's fleet could barely communicate with each other through the chaos. "Filter it out," Krathvor ordered. They did. But then the humans changed tactics again. They started broadcasting fake military signals, false coordinates, fake distress calls, decoy targeting data. The Krahok's fleet was not taking damage, but they were starting to feel frustrated. These humans fought in ways that made no sense. They did not follow rules. They did not have honor. They just kept throwing different attacks one after another. "General," the tactical officer called out. "Multiple human aircraft approaching. They appear to be fighters." On the screen, Krathvor saw dozens of primitive jet fighters rising from Earth. They were slow compared to Krahok's ships. Their weapons were simple projectiles and missiles. "Deal with them," he ordered. The Krahok's point defense systems locked on. Energy beams lanced out. The first wave of fighters exploded. But more came, and more, and more. "How many fighters do they have?" Krathvor demanded. "Unknown, General. Our estimate is at least 50,000 across the planet, and they keep launching more. 50,000. The Krahok's fleet could destroy them all, but it would take time, and ammunition. And while they were busy with fighters, what else would the humans try?" Then something hit one of his ships. Not a missile, not a fighter, a piece of metal. Just a chunk of space debris traveling at high speed. "Minor damage to Ship 447, the tactical officer reported. "Shields held, no casualties." Another impact, then another. The humans were using mass drivers to launch metal projectiles into orbit. Simple, crude, but moving fast enough to threaten ships if they hit the right spot. "This is insane," Krathvor said. "They are throwing everything they have at us. No strategy, no coordination, just chaos." "General," a new voice spoke. It was the science officer. "I think that is their strategy. They are testing our defenses. Every attack gives them data. Every response shows them our capabilities. They are learning faster than any species I have ever studied." Krathvor looked at the tactical display. The battle had been going on for 3 hours. His fleet had taken minimal damage. They had destroyed hundreds of human aircraft and thousands of missiles. By any normal measure, the Krahok's were winning, but the humans were not stopping. They were not retreating. And with each passing hour, their attacks got more creative. Far away, Zekthor watched through his hidden drones. He saw everything, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The humans were not trying to win, not yet. They were learning. Every attack was an experiment. Every loss was a lesson, and humans learned very, very fast. 3 days passed since the Krahok's fleet arrived at Earth. General Krathvor had expected to be accepting Earth's surrender by now. Instead, he was still fighting. His fleet had destroyed over 2,000 human aircraft. They had shot down 30,000 missiles. They had disabled dozens of military bases. But the humans kept fighting. What bothered Krathvor most was how the humans fought. They did not act like any military force he had ever faced. There was no central command, no grand strategy, just millions of humans doing whatever they could to cause problems. Some attacks were military, fighter jets and missiles. Others were civilian. Hackers crashed ship computers. Radio operators jammed communications. Even ordinary citizens found ways to interfere. But the worst part was how fast they adapted. On day 1, human missiles could not penetrate Krahok's shields. By day 2, they learned to overwhelm specific sections of the shields with concentrated fire. By day 3, they were coordinating attacks from multiple directions to exploit shield weaknesses. "They are reverse engineering our technology," the science officer explained. "Every time we destroy one of their craft, they analyze the wreckage. They study our weapons. They learn our tactics." "Primitives cannot learn that fast," Krathvor insisted. "These ones can. General, I have analyzed their biology. Humans are persistence hunters. On their planet, They would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They never give up, and their brains are wired to solve problems under pressure. Krathvor did not want to hear it. He ordered the fleet to take more aggressive action. They would strike military targets on the surface, show the humans the cost of continued resistance. The first orbital strike hit a military base in North America. The beam weapon carved a crater a mile wide. Thousands of humans died. Krathvor expected the humans to be horrified, to surrender. Instead, something else happened. The humans got angry. Within an hour, every human nation that had been neutral declared war on the Krahaks. Countries that had been enemies for centuries formed alliances. Weapons that humans had been saving for wars with each other were now aimed at the sky. The orbital bombardment continued. But each attack seemed to strengthen human resolve rather than break it. They are not rational, Krathvor said. They should see they cannot win. His tactical officer had a different opinion. General, I do not think they care about winning. I think they only care about not losing. There is a difference. That night, something happened that changed everything. A small human spacecraft approached the Krahaks fleet. It was barely more than a metal can with rocket engines. Inside were 3 humans in spacesuits. The ship transmitted a simple message. We want to talk. Krathvor was suspicious, but he was also curious. He ordered the ship brought aboard his flagship. The humans were searched for weapons. They had none. The 3 humans stood in the conference room. 2 men and 1 woman. They looked tired, but not afraid. I am Dr. Sarah Chen, the woman said through a translation device. We represent the Human Defense Coalition. We want to discuss terms. Surrender terms? Krathvor asked. No. We want to make you an offer. Krathvor was intrigued despite himself. What offer? Dr. Chen smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Leave now. Go back to your council. Tell them humans are not to be invaded. Do this and we will let you live. For a moment there was silence. Then Krathvor laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. You will let me live? Human, I have 1,000 warships. You have primitive rockets and nuclear weapons. I could reduce your planet to ash. You could, Dr. Chen agreed. But you would still lose. How? One of the men spoke up. Because we do not need to win. We just need to make you fail. Your council sent you here for answers. If you destroy Earth, you will have no answers. Just a dead planet and the shame of losing an entire fleet to primitives. I have lost nothing, Krathvor said. Not yet, Dr. Chen said. But you will. We have studied your fleet. We know your shield frequencies now. We know your weapon ranges. We know how many missiles it takes to overwhelm your point defenses. And we are mass-producing everything we need. She pulled out a data pad and showed him numbers. Production rates, weapon yields, tactical analysis. In 2 weeks we will have enough weapons to seriously damage your fleet. In a month we can destroy it. And if you destroy our planet, we have already sent out ships with all the data we have collected. Other human colonies will know how to fight you, how to beat you. Krathvor studied the numbers. He called his science officer to verify them. The officer looked at the data and nodded slowly. They are not lying, General. These calculations are accurate. The humans have weapons factories working around the clock. They are producing ammunition faster than we can destroy it. Krathvor felt something he had not felt in years. Doubt. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Why not just attack? Dr. Chen's expression softened slightly. Because we do not want to kill you. We just want you to leave. This war's expensive. People are dying. If you go now, everyone lives. The council will call me a coward. The council will call you smart. You survived where 7 other fleets did not. That is victory enough. Krathvor dismissed the humans. He needed time to think. But while he thought, the humans acted. That same night, 3 Krahak ships reported system failures. Then 5 more, then 10. The humans had planted something in his fleet during that meeting. Some kind of computer virus. The ships were not destroyed. Their life support still worked. Weapons were offline, but not permanently. It was a message. We could have killed you. We chose not to. Krathvor called his senior officers together. 7 fleets came here. None returned. Now I understand why. The humans do not fight to win. They fight to make invasion too costly. They adapt faster than any species I have seen, and they never ever give up. He looked at his tactical display. His fleet was still powerful. But the humans were right. In a few weeks, this would become a real fight. And there was no honor in destroying a planet just to avoid admitting failure. "Prepare the fleet to jump," he ordered. "We are leaving." "But General, the Council wanted answers." "I have them. Humans are not prey. They are predators, and this predator is too dangerous to hunt." The Krahawk's fleet began preparations to leave, but some ships did not respond. The human virus had spread further than expected. 20 ships were dead in space, not destroyed but disabled, and then human fighters appeared. Not attacking, just watching, making sure the Krahawk's fleet left. "General," the communications officer said, "the humans are offering to repair our damaged ships. They say they will return our crews safely if we promise to leave." Krathvor could not believe it. The humans had won. They had crippled his fleet. And now they were offering help? "Accept their offer," he said quietly. Over the next 3 days, human engineers boarded the disabled ships. They fixed the systems. They returned the crews, and they sent the ships home with one message: "Tell the galaxy, humans want peace. But if you bring war, we will teach you why that is a mistake." The Krahawk's fleet jumped away. They had lost pride, but they had survived. That was more than the 7 fleets before them could say. In his hidden location, Zekthor reviewed all the drone data. He had recorded everything, and now he understood. Humans were not strong. They were not technologically advanced. But they were adaptable, persistent, and they fought with a creativity that no other species could match. That made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The Galactic Council chamber was more crowded than Zekthor had ever seen it. Word of the Krahawk's fleet's return had spread fast. Everyone wanted to hear what had happened. General Krathvor stood before the council. He looked different now, less proud, more cautious. His armor had scorch marks from the battle. "I am alive," he began. "My fleet survived. But we did not conquer Earth, we could not." Silence filled the hall. No one spoke. They waited for the explanation. Krathvor told them everything. The strange way humans fought, their rapid adaptation, their refusal to surrender even when facing impossible odds. "They are not like any species we know," he said. "They do not follow our rules. They do not think like we do. Every attack teaches them. Every battle makes them stronger." The reptilian delegate who had spoken before stood up. "You had 1,000 ships. How could primitives defeat you?" "They did not defeat us," Krathvor corrected. "They made victory meaningless. Yes, we could have destroyed their planet, but they would have made us pay such a high price that the council would have called me a failure anyway." The council leader raised one crystalline hand. "Intelligence Officer Zekthor, you placed monitoring devices on the Krahawk's fleet. Show us what you recorded." Zekthor walked to the center. He activated his data crystal. Holograms filled the air above them. Everyone watched in silence as the recordings played. They saw the first human attacks. Primitive but persistent. They saw how quickly humans learned and adapted. They saw the cyber attacks, the mass driver projectiles, the swarms of fighters that never stopped coming. But most importantly, they saw the pattern. Zekthor showed them data from all 7 previous invasions. He had pieced it together from old records and his drone footage. The first fleet, 50 years ago, had arrived when humans barely had satellites. They had energy weapons. The fleet was destroyed by nuclear missiles modified with captured alien technology. The second fleet arrived 10 years later. Humans now had better space stations. The fleet brought shields. Humans learned to hack their computer systems and turn their own weapons against them. Each invasion taught humans something new. Each attacking species gave them technology they did not have before. "They are scavengers," Zekthor explained, "but not in a weak way. Humans take what works and make it better. They learn from every enemy. After 50 years of invasions, they have technology from 7 different species, all adapted to their needs." He showed them something that made several council members gasp. Human ships, crude vessels built from salvaged alien parts. They did not match any known design. They were hybrids, combinations of different technologies that should not work together but somehow did. "This is what happened to the 7 fleets," Zekthor said. "Humans did not just destroy them. They captured ships. They studied them. They took prisoners and learned from them. Some prisoners were returned home carrying warnings. Others chose to stay and help humans understand the technology." "Chose to stay?" The floating sphere of light sounded shocked. "Why would anyone help primitives?" Zekthor showed them footage of human prison camps. but they were not like any prison camp the Council knew. The aliens were held in comfortable conditions. They were given good food, medical care. Some were even paid to teach humans about their technology. Humans treat prisoners well, Zekthor explained. Better than most species treat their own soldiers. Several captured aliens have said they prefer living with humans to returning home. This caused an uproar in the Council chamber. It challenged everything they thought they knew about primitive species. Zekthor waited for silence, then continued. There is something else you need to understand about humans. They hunt not just for food. They hunt for sport, for challenge, for survival. Their entire evolution was shaped by persistence hunting. He explained what this meant. On Earth, humans were not the fastest or strongest predators, but they could run for hours, days even. They would chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. This made them different from most intelligent species. Most of us evolved as prey, Zekthor said. We learned to hide, to run, to build defenses. Humans evolved as hunters. They learned to chase, to track, to never give up. This is why they are dangerous. He showed them something truly frightening, long-range sensor data. In the weeks since the Krahok's fleet left Earth, humans had launched dozens of probe ships, small vessels designed to map jump routes, to explore nearby star systems, to find the paths the attacking fleets had used. They are learning how to reach us, Zekthor said quietly. Every fleet that attacks them gives them more navigation data, more jump coordinates. Soon humans will know how to find Council space. The hall erupted in panic. Some delegates demanded immediate action. A massive fleet to destroy Earth before humans became too dangerous. Others wanted to hide, to remove all records of the invasion attempts. The Council leader stood. Her crystalline form glowed brighter, demanding silence. We have three choices, she said. We can attack Earth with overwhelming force. We can ignore them and hope they do not find us. Or we can do something no one has tried yet. What? Several Council members asked. We can try to talk to them, as equals. This suggestion was met with resistance. How could primitives be equals? They had no unified government, no advanced technology of their own. They were dangerous, yes, but not civilized. Zekthor spoke up again. I think talking is our only option. If we attack with enough force to destroy Earth, we will need thousands of ships, tens of thousands, and humans will fight every step of the way. They will make it so costly that our own citizens will question the war. But if we ignore them, they will eventually reach Council space, and when they do, we will not be ready. They will have learned from 8 different invasion attempts. They will be more advanced than we can imagine. The only smart choice is to meet them as friends before they become enemies. The debate went on for hours. Some species wanted war. Others wanted isolation. But slowly, a majority began to agree with Zekthor. The Council leader made the final decision. We will send a diplomatic mission, not a military fleet. A small ship, a delegation. We will offer humans membership in the Galactic Council. And if they refuse, someone asked, then we will deal with that when it happens. But we will not attack first. Not again. Zekthor was chosen to lead the delegation. He accepted even though he was afraid. He had studied humans for months now. He knew they were dangerous. But he also knew they were rational. They had offered to spare the Krahok's fleet. They treated prisoners well. Maybe, just maybe, they could be reasoned with. The Council gave him one ship, not a warship, a diplomatic vessel. It would carry a small crew, gifts, and most importantly, an apology. We must admit we were wrong, the Council leader told him privately. 8 times we sent fleets to conquer them. 8 times we failed. If we cannot admit this mistake, we cannot move forward. Zekthor prepared for the journey. He studied human languages, human culture, human history. What he learned both fascinated and terrified him. Humans had been at war with themselves for their entire recorded history. But between wars, they created art, music, literature, philosophy. They were capable of both terrible violence and incredible beauty. The more he learned, the more he understood. Humans were not monsters. They were survivors. And survival had made them into something unique. His ship was ready. The delegation was selected. 3 diplomats from different species, all chosen for their ability to stay calm under pressure. Before they left, General Krathfor came to see Zekthor. Good luck, the general said. If anyone can make peace with humans, it is you. What will you do now? Zekthor asked. Krathvor smiled sadly. I will tell other military leaders what I learned. That there are some species you should not fight. Not because they are stronger, but because they will never stop fighting back. The diplomatic ship launched. It would reach Earth in 2 weeks. 2 weeks for Zekthor to prepare the most important speech of his life. He had to convince humans that the galaxy wanted peace. After 8 invasion attempts, that would not be easy. But he had one advantage. Humans were curious. They wanted to explore, to learn, to meet other species. Maybe that curiosity would be enough. Maybe humans would give the galaxy one more chance. Zekthor could only hope. The diplomatic ship entered the Earth system slowly. Very slowly. Zekthor did not want to trigger any defensive systems. He broadcast their peaceful intentions on every frequency humans used. Within minutes, they received a response. Human military forces had detected them. Fighter patrols surrounded the ship. But they did not attack. They just watched. This is Zekthor of the Galactic Council, he broadcast. We come in peace. We wish to speak with your leaders about a diplomatic arrangement. There was a long pause. Then a human voice responded. This is Admiral Zhang of the Human Defense Coalition. You understand we are skeptical. The last 8 times aliens came to our system, they tried to conquer us. I understand, Zekthor said, and we apologize. Those invasions were mistakes. We did not understand who you were. We do now. Another pause. Then Admiral Zhang spoke again. You may dock at the International Space Station. A delegation will meet you there. But Ambassador Zekthor, bring no weapons, and know that if this is a trick, it will be the last mistake your species makes. Zekthor heard the threat clearly, but he also heard something else. The human had called him ambassador. That meant they were willing to talk. The diplomatic ship docked at the human space station. Zekthor and his team went through thorough security checks. The humans were careful, professional. They treated the aliens with respect but also caution. Finally, Zekthor was led to a conference room. Inside, 12 humans waited. They represented different nations and organizations. All of them looked tired. The recent battles had taken their toll. Dr. Sarah Chen was there. She recognized Zekthor from his broadcasts. Thank you for seeing us, Zekthor began. I know you have every reason to be suspicious. Yes, we do, Dr. Chen said. 8 invasions in 50 years. Thousands dead. Trillions spent on defense. So why should we listen to you now? Zekthor had prepared for this. He activated a holographic display. It showed everything. The council meetings. The debates. The fear that had driven the invasions. We were afraid, he said simply. We saw a species that was different from us. Aggressive, divided. We thought you were dangerous. So we tried to eliminate the threat before it grew. You were right about one thing, Admiral Zhang said. We are dangerous. You learned that the hard way. Yes. But we also learned something else. You do not want conquest. You want to be left alone. Every invasion fleet that offered to leave peacefully was allowed to go. You could have destroyed them all. You chose not to. The humans looked at each other. One of them, a younger man in a military uniform, spoke up. We are not monsters. We fight when we have to. But we prefer peace. We always have. Zekthor nodded. We understand that now. The Galactic Council has sent me to make you an offer. We want to invite humanity to join the Council as a member species. The room fell silent. No one had expected this. You want us to join? Dr. Chen asked carefully. After trying to conquer us 8 times, now you want us as allies? Yes, because we finally understand what you are. You are not primitives. You are survivors. You adapt faster than any species we have ever encountered. You take technology from enemies and make it better. You never give up. These are valuable traits. He changed the hologram. It now showed threats the galaxy faced. Pirate fleets, rogue AI systems, unexplored regions of space with unknown dangers. The galaxy needs species like yours. We have become comfortable. We follow rules. We avoid risk. But sometimes the universe requires adaptability, creativity, the willingness to try new solutions. Humans have all of these qualities. The human delegation discussed this among themselves. They spoke in several languages. Zekthor's translator worked hard to keep up. Finally, Dr. Chen spoke for the group. We have conditions. Name them, Zekthor said. First, all prisoners from previous invasions must be returned home if they wish to go. Those who want to stay on Earth may do so. Agreed. Second, Earth remains independent. We will cooperate with the Council, but we govern ourselves. That is standard for all Council members. Third, we want full access to Council technology. No restrictions, no secrets. This was harder. Some Council technology was protected, but Zekthor thought about it. Humans had already stolen or reverse-engineered technology from 8 different species. They would figure it out eventually anyway. I will recommend this to the Council, but you must agree to share your own innovations in return. Dr. Chen smiled. Deal. I think you will find human creativity quite valuable. They talked for hours. Details were worked out. Treaties were drafted. By the end, both sides were exhausted but satisfied. As Zekthor prepared to leave, a young human approached him. She looked about 10 years old. Her mother, one of the delegates, had brought her to the station. Mr. Zekthor? The child asked.
Can I ask you something?
Of course. Why did you attack us 8 times before you said hello? That seems weird. Zekthor looked at the child. Her question was simple but cut to the heart of the matter. Adults complicated things with politics and strategy. Children saw the truth. You are right, he said. It was weird. And stupid. We were afraid of what we did not understand, so we attacked first and asked questions later. That is what bullies do, the child said matter-of-factly. Yes, it is. And we are sorry. The child nodded, satisfied with this answer. She skipped away to rejoin her mother. Dr. Chen had watched the exchange. She walked over to Zekthor. Children are honest, she said. Adults learn to hide the truth behind fancy words. But she is right. Your council was a bully. I know, Zekthor said. That is why we are trying to change. Humans have taught us a valuable lesson. Strength is not just about weapons and technology. It is about knowing when to fight and when to make friends. You learn fast, Dr. Chen observed. Not as fast as humans, but we try. The diplomatic mission returned to Council space with good news. Humans had agreed to join the Galactic Council. They would start as provisional members. In 5 years, if both sides were satisfied, the membership would become permanent. The Council chamber received the news with mixed reactions. Some were pleased. Others were worried. But everyone agreed on one thing. The galaxy had changed. Over the following months, human diplomats arrived at Council stations. Human scientists exchanged information with alien researchers. Human merchants began trading with other species. And the Council discovered something remarkable. Humans brought innovation everywhere they went. They looked at old problems with fresh eyes. They combined technologies in ways no one had thought of before. They asked questions that challenged assumptions. One human innovation became famous across the galaxy. A mathematician named Dr. James Wong solved a physics problem that had stumped alien scientists for centuries. The solution was elegant and simple. When asked how he did it, Dr. Wong said he just approached it differently. That became the human reputation. They approached everything differently. 5 years passed. The provisional period ended. The Galactic Council held a vote. Should humanity become permanent members? The vote was unanimous. Yes. At the ceremony, Zekthor stood beside Dr. Chen. They had become friends over the years. She was now Earth's chief ambassador to the Council. We did it, she said. From enemies to allies in 5 years. Humans did the hard part, Zekthor replied. You forgave us. That takes more strength than winning battles. Dr. Chen smiled. We are practical. Holding grudges is expensive. Making friends is profitable. The council leader addressed the assembly. Her crystalline form glowed with pride. Today we welcome humanity as full members of the Galactic Council. They bring strength, innovation, and wisdom earned through hardship. We are better for having them among us. The hall erupted in applause. Representatives from 200 species cheered. Dr. Chen stepped forward to give the human response. She spoke clearly and confidently. Thank you for this honor. Humans are explorers and dreamers. We have always looked to the stars and wondered what was out there. Now we know. We are not alone, and that is the greatest gift we could receive. She paused, then added with a slight smile. But if anyone else tries to invade Earth, we are still ready to defend ourselves. Just so we are clear, the hall erupted in laughter. Even the most warlike species appreciated human directness. Later that night, Zekthor sat in his quarters reviewing his notes. He was writing a report on the human integration process. It would be required reading for all council diplomats. He thought about everything that had happened. 8 invasion attempts, thousands of lives lost, billions spent on weapons and defenses, all because the Council had been afraid of something different. But now, 5 years later, humans were valued members of galactic society. They contributed ideas. They solved problems. They brought energy and enthusiasm to everything they did. The galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating humans again. But more importantly, they learned a bigger lesson. Sometimes the species you fear the most can become your greatest ally. You just have to be willing to talk instead of fight. Zekthor saved his report and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there on a small blue and green planet, humans were looking up at those same stars. They were no longer alone, and neither was the galaxy. Everything had changed because someone finally asked the right question. Not how do we defeat them, but how do we talk to them? Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one.